Hi there. Today on Lydia's Books, I am Lydia and I want to talk about some new books coming out in August. I'm a little bit late, but that's pretty normal actually. I like to take some time to arrange the list, and normally I shorten the list, but not this time. It's about 32 books and a couple bonus books, so it's really long. Normally I parse these lists, but there's a lot of good stuff coming out in August, which is weird because I thought that there wasn't, because the HWA listing, a lot of people submitted books, but for the month before or after, not August. So I was surprised to see this many books on the list. Starting out on August 1st. Now, forgive me if I do have a sore throat a little bit today. There's a lot of fire smoke in the air. We have Black Brain by Michael Sisko. And I like this cover. It's got this distressed paperback kind of look with a swirling cosmos, almost looks like a thumbprint, and I think that's intentional. It's got yellow sans serif font that sets off this simplicity really nicely, and I like this cover quite a bit, even though I do fall out of favor with these false retro book covers. This one looks pretty cool. A man laying in a bed of pain flees from physical torment into his own memories and into speculations about life and reality. He was once employed by the Temporary Institute for the Study of Holes. I wish there were more temporary institutes in this world. A think tank pursuing research that ranges from occult studies to advanced physics, including black holes, or as they are known in string theory, black brains. Now, I have a bit of a black brain. I don't know string theory, so string theorists out there, let me know if that's true. This cover looks cool, and I love kind of like the sci-fi horror, and this reminds me a little bit of like the video game Control, August 5th. Black Flame by Gretchen Felker Martin. So we go from Black Brain to Black Flame. This cover has a strange looking person with like their barfing film strip and it's strangling them at the same time. It kind of looks like a manga cover, so I don't know where this is going. The Baroness, an infamous exploitation film long thought destroyed by Nazi fire, is discovered 50 years later when lonely archivist Ellen Kramer, aren't all archivists lonely, deeply closeted and pathologically repressed, begins restoring the hedonistic movie. It unspools dark desires from deep within her. As Ellen is consumed by visions and voices, she becomes convinced the movie is real and is happening to her, and that frame by frame, she is unleashing its occult horrors onto the world. Her life quickly begins to spiral out of control, like you do. Departure 37. This cover looks like a typical thriller to me. It has a blurb by Stephen King. I wasn't going to include it because I'm like, it's just like an action thriller. But I think it gets horror here. So it's got these like block letters surrounding an eye that's looking through shattered glass, and the glass is reflected like cloudy sky, like this is a window of an airplane. So it's like such typical thriller cover, you know. On a clear October day, pilots across the U.S. refuse to fly after eerie late-night calls from their mothers, some of whom are dead. As authorities scramble for answers, 16-year-old Charlie spots a strange balloon near her coastal Maine home, unaware that her town is tied to a Cold War secret. I grew up in a town which everyone wanted it to be tied to a Cold War secret. We're kind of like Cheyenne Mountain North, and there was like apparently a nuclear submarine in the deepest lake nearby and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if any of it's true. I should really work it into a story sometime, although I believe that an author had at one time done that with Minnow Trap, but I digress. 16-year-old Charlie spots this weather balloon in coastal Maine town, Cold War secret. 1962, physicist Martin Hazelton uncovered something deadly. Now the past and present collide in a race to stop what's coming. Wow. Aren't all races to stop what's coming when it comes to horror? Now, it's because of the supernatural angle of the dead mothers calling. Maybe it's just that paranormal kind of scene at the beginning that sets off this race against time. But I'm hoping for more paranormal. And if Stephen King likes it, maybe, I don't know, maybe like I'm slanted into my bias to preference for Stephen King. Haunted Reels 2. More stories from the minds of professional filmmakers. This is a Dark Matter book. Dark Matter presents various authors, of course. The cover is really busy. It's showing this like guy maybe dead, with like vapors rising from his eyeballs and a television on static. It's got all these like blues and greens, a yellow sans serif text, which seems to be a trend this month. It's really neat looking, a little busy and a little cartoonish, but the monster that is Haunted Reels has returned, and now no one is safe. Featuring 24 brand new, never before published stories by a mix of Hollywood legends and rising film industry stars, Haunted Reels 2, which I never read Haunted Reels. If you've read this Haunted Reels anthology of horror written by filmmakers, let me know. Maybe it's about filmmakers, by filmmakers. It continues the menace that its brooding predecessor started, only this time it has a grudge. Beware the murderous vandals, maniacal crackpots, and diabolically possessed contained within these pages. Well, thank you for the warning. We will do that. For once you let them loose, there's no telling what they'll do next. This synopsis is cute and all. It doesn't tell me really what's going on. But yeah, there is a big list of contributing authors. You can click through and find out more. There's a link down below to typicalbooks.com/new horror where all of these are listed. There's a whole bunch of other filmmakers there. I mean, Flanagan is on the list. That's what caught my eye. So yeah, very interested to check this out. Lost in the Dark and Other Excursions. If you want more short stories, this is by John Langan, and I still have not read a John Langan book. I need to read The Fisherman. So Lost in the Dark and Other Excursions. The cover is this woman looking back at a stone wall that is like crowned by this giant skull and flanked by handprints, a lot like the Australian Aboriginal handprint art that adorns its rock. Plain white serif font. It's very, very neat, very cool, very foreboding. A garishly painted figurine contains a terrible curse. The 10-year anniversary of a sensational horror film shot in an abandoned mine reveals stunning secrets. And notes for a book review uncover a strange high-tech pathogen. A man witnesses something uncanny and explained as his friend succumbs to a watery death. And on and on. We're going to describe every single story in the book, I take it. A seasick woman aboard a ferry is pursued by a barnacle-covered specter. A professor reveals a mysterious connection between Joseph Conrad and Peter Pan. That's kind of cool. A man encounters the ghost of his lost sister in a liminal space between the land and sea. An academic meets a mythical creature on a mysterious island. And no doubt the description goes on to describe why you should read this book without, really tying it together to a theme, except for it is stories by John Langan. I'm still interested, even though those sorts of descriptions are lackluster. And I'm not just saying that because I put a different kind of spin into descriptions of short story collections of my own. It's tedious. Maybe pick the top 3. That's my favorite kind of those descriptions where they pick like 3 of the best stories in the anthology, and more in this gripping anthology from blah, 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 or collection if it's a single author thing. Anyway, I went on a tantrum. The next book, also on August 5th, because I don't think we've left this day yet, Tantrum by Rachel Eve Moulton. And the cover has this clashing like cyan and bright orangish red thing going on. A simple pram with tentacles reaching forth out of the pram. It's perfectly normal, and there's nothing weird about this cover at all, except that the fact that the cyan and orangish red clash so terribly. Thea's 3rd pregnancy felt normal until baby Lucia arrived with a full set of teeth, a wicked glint in her eye, and an insatiable hunger. When Lucia points to her brother and says, "I eat," Thea is not sure if she should be horrified or proud. As Lucia grows, so do strange memories from Thea's past. Her daughter wants to devour the world, and Thea might just let her. A darkly funny tale of motherhood memory and monstrous appetite. I may recommend this to my friend Amy Jane, because this sounds like something up her alley. Maybe not. Some mothers might not want to read this. Or maybe this one. I read the synopsis, or the first chapter, I think, of this one, and it sounded pretty good. The writing style was really strong. It's called This Is My Body by Lindsay King Miller. It has this sort of like opal green and blue flies. You know how black flies are kind of like shiny in the sun? They've got these flies crawling around a dark rosary on a red background, and it's entwined around this gorgeous calligraphic kind of black letter block font, these block letters. bright white, really striking, really plain. I am a big fan of plain photographic covers, really, honestly, or these woodcut things that are so popular. When her daughter Dylan begins having violent, unexplainable fits, Bridget, a gay single mom and lapsed Catholic, starts to fear a dark family history is repeating. Desperate, she returns home to the last person she ever wanted to see, her uncle, Father Angus, who once performed an exorcism on a troubled girl. But as secrets unravel, Bridget learns the truth may be worse than demons, and going home may have put them both in greater danger. So yeah, I love a good exorcism story. It's the sort of book I always hope comes to film, because I like exorcism films as well. And for the last book on August 5th, there's so many books coming out just August 5th alone. It's a really banger day, and we have another one coming up. We Like It Cherry by J.C. Morris. And this is a book I don't know a heck of a lot about. I really do like the premise, though. The cover has a silhouetted person that's standing dwarfed by this massive ice wall. So it's a lot of blues and whites and blacks with this red word, cherry. We like it, cherry. That word is in like a wild scratched font, cherry, and the rest is in black sans serif font. It's really interesting, and I wonder if they mean cherry fresh or easy. I don't know what kind of cherry. I've never used the word cherry as like a slang term. Documentarist Ezra Montbank thinks he's hit the jackpot when he receives an invitation to document the rights of a mysterious, hitherto unknown tribe, the Winnequen, who reside in the harrowing, inhospitable Arctic. It's a shot at the prestigious journalism career he's long envisioned and a path out of the borderline exploitative series detailing the celebrations of indigenous tribes he's been mired in his life with his filmmaking partner, Stu. Buzzing with possibility, Ezra and his crew depart for the home of the Winnequen, only to find themselves frozen in a bloody battle for survival atop an inaccessible glacier ritual site, where men and mythical horrors hunger for sacrifice. Okay, very, very interested, especially because I just watched Until Dawn, and then I played the video game Until Dawn. I like Wendigo stories. I don't know if this is a Wendigo story, but I have high hopes. And a Wendigo in the Arctic is increasingly terrifying because of that, like, isolation and the inhospitable landscape of a glacier. A great glacier ritual site. Nothing more terrifying than that. So yeah, very interested to hear We Like It Cherry. Although I don't know how the title and the story coalesce. I'm very interested. If you've read We Like It Cherry, maybe explain to me, if you can, without spoiling the book, what the title means, right? Okay, August 12th, A Game in Yellow by Haley Piper. Yellow border and pink sans serif text. It looks kind of modern for its older classic inspiration here. But yeah, photo of a person kind of manipulated to appear as if they're dripping like paint at the midway point. It's hard to describe this title. If you are listening on a podcast and can't see the picture, I highly encourage going and seeing it, because I can't describe this kind of like abstract stuff very well. It's very odd. It's very effective. A kink-fixated couple, Carmen and Blanca, have been in a rut. That is until Blanca discovers the enigmatic Smoke in an under-street drug den. I think Smoke is a person's name, who holds the pages to a strange play, The King in Yellow. Read too much and you'll fall into madness, but read just a little and pull back and it gives you the adrenaline rush of a survivor's euphoria, leading Carmen to fall into a game of lust at the nightmare's edge. Okay, I really like this take on The King in Yellow. I mean, I've read a little bit. I guess I have that survivor's rush of euphoria or whatever. But yeah, we've all only read a little bit of The King in Yellow, let's be clear. An Evil Premise by T. Marie Vandelay. And this is one that I think was a thriller, or more of a thriller. It veers more to thriller. I usually try to not include so many thrillers, but I like this. It's because it's an author story. A broken pencil bleeds in the center of this picture. Another simplistic photographic cover. Large serif block letters for the cover. The background's this white blank page, not with lines, like a lined page, but a blank page. Making this red and orange of the blood and the pencil stand out really nicely. I like this cover. When her sister Deirdre falls into a coma with a strange skin condition, Jewel steps in and discovers an unfinished manuscript. A writer herself, Jewel offers to complete it, but the story is deeply unsettling. As strange events mirror the manuscript's grisly plot, Jewel's skin begins to itch, the word count rises on its own, and her thoughts turn dark. Did the story just drive Deirdre mad? And what will happen if she wakes up from her coma? ... I guess. But I don't know, maybe Jewel's also asleep too. But hey, I am intrigued. Haunted manuscripts, and there's not enough haunted manuscripts out there in the world. The next book is Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle. And I really like how, just by nature of the way I throw these lists together, I don't give a lot of thought, but we kind of go from highs and lows and thrillers to absurd and bizarro to extreme. Lucky Day. The cover is the Suicide King card. It's a little extra grisly on the top part than you're used to seeing the King of Hearts. And the bottom is even more ghoulish. And this inverted version looks a lot more supernatural. I like this cover. It's a little flashy, be a cool tattoo. Pinks and greens for the sans serif font make it extra flashy. 4 years ago, the low probability event killed 8 million people. Strangled by balloon ropes, torn apart by exploding manhole covers, attacked by a chimpanzee wielding a typewriter, luck was unpredictable. Vera, a former probability professor, sees chaos. When Special Agent Lane arrives to investigate a statistically impossible casino, he needs Vera to link its success to those deaths. She's the world's defense against another deadly improbability. Interesting. See, this is the problem you have when you go firing your statistical officers. But yeah, you need people to do the numbers. And this Vera will be running the numbers on this low improbability event. Imagine having a low improbability day where you could just go and buy a lottery ticket and be pretty convinced that you'll win and pretty assured of a much better odds. A low probability day. Not a low improbability day. Low probability day. This is why I don't read Bizarro. But yeah, I still need to read Chuck Tingle. I want to read Bury Your Gays first, though, I guess. Or Camp Damascus. Maybe Camp Damascus. If you've read them both, which is the more dark? Let me know. The next book is a Korean sensation that has been recently translated, The Midnight Shift by Sun Ran Chon, and it's translated by Jean Pang. The cover has this hyper neon pink with a red mouth, just a duotone, really simplistic, pouty woman's lips that seem to be bitten and bleeding, and it's striking for the use of black Helvetica. Nice plain text. When 4 isolated elderly people die back-to-back at the same hospital by jumping out the 6th-floor window, Soo-yeon doesn't understand why she's the only one at her precinct that seems to care. But her colleagues at the police force dismiss the case as a series of unfortunate suicides due to patients' loneliness. But Soo-yeon doesn't have the privilege of looking away. Her dearest friend, Grandma Un-shim, lives on the 6th floor, and Soo-yeon is terrified that something will happen to her next. As Soo-yeon begins to investigate alone, she runs into a mysterious woman named Violette at the crime scene, and Violette claims to be a vampire hunter searching for her ex-lover Lily, and is insistent that a vampire is behind the mysterious deaths. Soo-yeon is skeptical at first, but when a 5th victim jumps from the window, her investigation reveals the body was completely drained of blood. Desperate to discover the cause of the events, Soo-yeon considers Violette's explanation that something supernatural is involved. I left that description really long, and I felt it gives a lot away, but I'm convinced that all that only happens in the first chapter, and then the story unfolds from there. So yeah, very interesting. I like a good vampire story and an interesting international take outside of the vampires that we're very used to in North America, or reading British influenced vampires. This might be something different, and it sounds like it might be something closer to Let the Right One In, but maybe not with kids. We'll find out. On August 13th, we have Eradicator by David Simmons. I love this cover. It is super simple and effective, maybe a little hard to describe because it's a black on red image of a person kind of screaming or projectile vomiting black goo or blood or something or nothing. I don't know what it is. Liquid from the bottom so they're on their back kind of, and like it's going up the cover, to a distressed white sans serif all cap text. Yeah, I mean, what more could you want? At the NICU, she holds the most fragile lives in her hands, but something inside her is breaking. She's only 24, but between the drugs and impulsive hookups and growing paranoia, her life is unraveling fast. All she knows is that it feels good, powerful, like a new version of herself is taking shape, and when it does, people are going to die. Eradicator is American Psycho meets The Fly. Okay, I am very interested in this sort of extreme take on something like American Psycho meets The Fly. And I like women American Psycho type stories, much like what I've read lately, of course, was Christopher Triano's Full Brutal. Maybe American Psycho-ish. And Victorian Psycho, I guess, is another entry into that recent pool of female psychos. On August 14th, we have House of Monstrous Women by Daphne Fama. It has a very interesting, colorful image of a woman's bleeding hand reaching through like a flower garden, kind of like close up, with a mansion on a hill looming in the background, flanked on both sides by bluebells, really cute bluebells. Sort of reminds me of like Dutch barn hacks design in the color choice and the design of these flowers. The font is tall and narrow, but wide micro serif. I like a good micro serif, and I like a tall, narrow, but chunky one too. So this is a nice looking cover to me. Kayagara, 1986. Josephine del Rosario is the town pariah, left destitute after her parents were assassinated and destined to marry a man twice her age. So when Herrera Renoco, an old friend, offers Josephine an escape, she can't say no. All she needs to do is spend one night in the Renoco home to play a children's game of hide and seek. If she wins, she can have everything that she wants, even perhaps Herrera's heart. But the manor is sprawling and nightmarish, crawling with insects and rotting from the inside out. The servants stand silently in corners and won't meet her eye. Worst of all, the house itself seems to want to trap Josephine. She must stay hidden until morning, but can she make it through the night? This is a lot like the film Ready or Not, I think, but maybe even more sinister, even more dark, a little more gothic, of course, which is always welcome. On August 15th, we start with a little bit of nonfiction. There's a few nonfiction books on the list. Beyond the Lesbian Vampire, Reclaiming the Violent Lesbian in Contemporary Queer Horror by Sam Tabbitt. The cover is sort of like this 50s cartoon version of a lesbian vampire, complete with bats and a cloud-covered moon. Not quite New Yorker style cartoon, but something like that. Beyond the Lesbian Vampire is a groundbreaking drive into the pervasive archetype of the violent lesbian. Examining this historically problematic figure within cultural and cinematic imagination, from witch to vampire to murderer, and identifying her resurgence in 7 critically acclaimed queer horror films in the late 2010s. Each case study depicts multidimensional lesbian characters trending toward more justifiable narrative reasons for violence. Okay, I'm not very good at academic speak here, and I find that these descriptions are needlessly wordy. Additionally, this new iteration of the violent lesbian self-consciously references earlier portrayals, including her popular vampiric form, despite shedding her literal fangs. The combination of excessive citation alongside narrative shift gestures toward a reclamation of the violent lesbian vampire within queer horror. The author weaves textual analysis and scholarly debates around assimilation and the legibility of lesbianism's queerness to reveal the cultural salience of the violent lesbian and of the queer and lesbian fears and pleasures she evokes. Beyond the Lesbian Vampire is a vital contribution to lesbian studies, horror studies, queer studies, and feminist studies. And yes, most of all, horror studies. And I think that this, of course, will focus on films, but it's very important because a lot of books go unfilmed, and there's a lot more lesbian vampire and queer horror that doesn't make the screen, right? So this sort of study is very exciting and interesting to me, especially because it's more than just Carmilla. Now for something completely different, on August 18th, we have The End of the World as We Know It, the new tales of Stephen King's The Stand. And the cover has this, it's very text forward. It's a red micro serif gothic font. It's very large on black. It is all type. It's no images. Very bold, very plain, very, very plain. There's other covers I've seen for this that are a little more interesting, but since its initial publication in 1978, The Stand has been considered Stephen King's seminal masterpiece of apocalyptic fiction, with millions of copies sold and adapted twice for television. And of course, revised quite famously and made longer. Although there are other extraordinary works exploring the unraveling of human society, none have been as influential and iconic as this novel. Generations of writers have been impacted by its dark yet ultimately hopeful vision of the end and a new beginning of civilization, and its stunning array of characters. Featuring an introduction by Stephen King and a foreword by Christopher Golden and an afterword by Brian Keene, contributors include, and I'll get myself ready here for the big list: Wayne Brady, Morris Broadus, Poppy Z. Bright, Summer Cannon, C. Robert Cargill, Nat Cassidy, V. Castro, Richard Chismar, S.A. Crosby, Tanana Redu, Stephen Barnes, Meg Gardner, Gabino Iglesias, Jonathan Jans, Alma Katsu, Carolyn Kepnes, Michael Korstra, Sarah Langan, Joe R. Lansdale, Tim Levin, Josh Mallerman, Ronald Malfi, Usman T. Malik, Primi Mohammed, Cynthia Paleo, Haley Piper, David J. Shao, Alex Segura, Brian Smith, Paul Tremblay, Catherine M. Valente, Bev Vincent, Katrina Ward, Chuck Wendig, Rath James White, and Rio Ewers. Wow. Okay. Alphabetical. Thank you. Those big lists, I don't know why I do that to myself, but I can't help doing it. And I'm glad that I didn't put 2 in here, because there could have been one for that filmmakers anthology. But yes, I'm very interested to read this. Me and my podcast partner, Wes, Dead Air Night for Splatter Pictures Dead Air podcast, were just talking about The Stand and how they had revised some of the things to make it a little more timely, like the names of cars, the names of gas stations, and things like that. Really interesting to hear about all of those authors. That is a great list of authors, too. If you're new to horror and you're new here and just looking for something new to read, that is a fantastic list of contemporary, popular, powerful authors, every single one of them. So August 19th, we have So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. I've not read any Rachel Harrison. This seems like not YA, but almost. But I'm including it here because I like the cover. It has a champagne glass of cut crystal. It's full of blood, a cute kind of batsy olive spear. And in case you wondered, it does say a vampire novel in kind of lipstick on the side. So yeah. Sloane's birthday getaway with her wild best friend Naomi is supposed to be relaxing, a break from her husband's infidelity and her own discontent. But Naomi has other plans. One wild night with a mysterious stranger turns horrifying, leaving the women changed forever. As they face bloody eternal consequences, Sloane must confront her life, her choices, and what it really means to start living, no matter how dark the path to satisfaction becomes. It's the sort of thing that doesn't appeal to me. It's like box wine mom horror, maybe, I guess. Maybe that's being harsh, but that's how I take it. So if you've read Rachel Harrison stuff and you would say it's not box wine mom horror, if you can define that along with me, then let me know, because maybe someday I'll read it. And I think of it as Matt Haig level, the Radleys kind of horror, right? As far as vampire fiction goes. Let me know. Let me know if I'm wrong. The Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabel Cañas. And this cover has a really nice kind of gothic oil paint style with like muted natural colors like ochre, umber, blue, depicting a woman in anguish standing against a wall on a bed in what looks like a cell, but is probably just a very modest bedroom. Really lovely tall serif font with very wide downstrokes. It's just really, really pretty. Very pretty oil paint cover, something you don't see very often these days. In 1765, Alba flees the plague with her parents and fiancé to his family's remote mine, but safety turns to terror. Plagued by hallucinations and violent fits, she feels something dark is growing inside her. Elias, her fiancé's cousin, tries to ignore his attraction to her, but can't ignore her unraveling. As they're drawn into secrets, demons, and forbidden desires, they realize one of these forces will destroy them both. So it sounds like if you enjoyed Isabel Cañas' previous work, this is right up the same alley. Very interesting. Very cool gothic. I like this. Still on August 19th here, The Unseen, a novel by Anya Alborn. The cover has sort of like a creepy house with red smoke kind of billowing around it. I like a house on the cover of a horror novel for sure. Semi-faded white block letters for the title look really ghostly with a mostly black background. Really effective. Doesn't tell you a lot about the story, of course, except that it may be a domestic. Isla Hansen, a mother reeling from a devastating loss, is beside herself when a mysteriously orphaned child appears on the outskirts of the Hansens' secluded Colorado property. Although strange and unexplainable, the child's presence breathes new life into Isla. But as the child settles in, her husband Luke and their 5 children notice peculiarities that hint at something else beyond the ordinary, anomalies that challenge the very fabric of reality itself. The tension within the Hansen household grows, and with it, the sense that there is something very wrong with the new kid in the house. Okay, that is creepy, and that is a domestic horror if I've ever heard it. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, this sounds good. I've not read any Anya Alborn. There's always authors in these lists that I've never read, so yeah. More nonfiction, horror film studies. Your favorite scary movie, How the Scream Films Rewrote the Rules of Horror by Ashley Cullins. And this is a conversation that we've been having on the podcast because we covered a little bit of the 90s teen horror cycle. And with the release of, I guess, the remake of I Know What You Did Last Summer coming up soon, this is really timely. The cover of this is delightful. Like, I couldn't not talk about this, even though it's not about horror fiction, like literature. It has this popcorn, like of the face of Ghostface the Killer out from the Scream films, the mask, made of popcorn. And it's just done so well. I think it's so cool. The fonts are on point, no pun intended, with a red sans serif that drips blood and a red hand scrawl that evokes a handwritten note. Just really, really cool. In Your Favorite Scary Movie, entertainment journalist Ashley Cullins examines the making and impact of the Scream films with behind-the-scenes insight from cast, creators, and crew, as well as a sharp analysis on how the movie's special blend of gruesome violence and humorous self-awareness rewrote the horror playbook. Some people would say no because they don't like Scream. You can still agree with that and not like Scream. We actually discussed this, me and my podcast partner, recently. But there are a lot of fans of Scream. If you are or you know one, this will be a perfect gift for them. This intimate and thorough history includes brand new interviews with Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, Kevin Williamson, and Skeet Ulrich, and Matthew Lillard, and Jack Quaid, and Parker Posey, and Hayden Panettiere, Jasmine Savoy Brown, Mason Godding, Radio Silence, Roger L. Jackson, and so many more. I thought I didn't have another big list of names, but that list wasn't so big. But again, yeah, if you have a Scream fan or a film fan, or you're getting into horror films and want to like go back in time a little bit, that's a good book to pick up. August 20th, Feral and Hysterical, Mother Horror's Ultimate Reading Guide to Dark and Disturbing Fiction by Women by Sadie Hartman. Okay, so horror literature, nonfiction, finally. It's got this lovely old fairy tale look of a woman fleeing a burning mansion in a woodcut style on the cover. I absolutely love this cover. The title's a mix of like wild scratching and sans serif in an old style. So I really like that. All cream and ochre and black. It's just a very lovely cover. And it's weird to say, but this would make a good t-shirt. Maybe it's because it evokes the cover of this t-shirt. Every day is Halloween is what it says, and it kind of is the same sort of style. Horror fans will be delighted to discover a whole new list of horror recommendations by women writers, taking a cue from the popular practice of mood reading and the most common requests that she gets on social media. If you don't know who Sadie Hartman is, Mother Horror, check out her Instagram, and there's a channel here as well. I think she runs, of course, the Nightworms book package, along with, I think, the person from Jump Scares, I think. Not really clear because I don't get Nightworms. It's just, unfortunately, far too expensive to ship to Canada, but I know there's a lot of fans out there. I'm a fan from afar, but yes. The most common requests that she gets on social media and the overwhelming positive reaction to the icons included in her first book Sadie has carefully curated and organized her 200 plus book recommendations into reading lists based on vibes. I don't know. The definition of vibes eludes me sometimes. I get what it means, but yeah, so there's going to be lists of reading by theme in this book, I suppose. So yeah, it is a list of books. Apparently she had a little criticism because people are like, it's just a list of books. I hear that. I have gotten criticism from these new release videos that it's just a list of books I haven't read yet. So people will criticize whatever, but hey, you know what? If you would like a huge list of books to read that are curated by theme by someone who really knows the industry as well as Sadie does, this is a really great one. Or of course, if you're having a hard time buying gifts for the reader in your life, this might be a really good one. Or just haul off and buy them a random book like this one, Sacrificial Animals, a novel by Kaylee Peterson. I love the cover of this. This reminds me of Grey Dog. And I say that about all of these kind of like plain red duotone books with animals on the cover. It has red on black, kind of fine woodcut or printmaker's block or intaglio, or sort of, remember if you've ever done this in art class where you take that, you take a piece of tin and then you paint it with black chalk paint and then you scratch it away. That's what it reminds me of. It's an image of a fox with large white block text that would disrupt the whole thing. But it ties it together. It's a really well artfully designed cover because it has a little texture. It's really nice, high key, high contrast stuff. So the last thing that Nick Morrow expected to receive was an invitation from his father to return home. When he left rural Nebraska behind, he believed that he was leaving everything there, including his abusive father, Carlisle, and the farm that loomed so large, in memory forever. But neither Nick nor his brother Joshua, disowned for marrying Amelia, a woman of Asian descent, could ignore some summons from their father, who hopes for a deathbed reconciliation. Predictably, Joshua and Carlisle quickly warm to each other while Nick and Amelia are left to their own devices. Nick puts the time to good use, and his flirtation with Amelia quickly blooms into romance. Though not long after the affair turns intimate, Nick begins to suspect that Amelia's interest in him may have a sinister and possibly even ancient motivation. Okay, interesting. I don't really know what this story is about except for a whole bunch of infighting, but I'm just really intrigued by the cover and the title. On August 22nd, we have a little bit of dystopian horror here, On Earth as It Is Beneath by Anna Paula Maya. The cover has this kind of oddly Easter-like pink and blue kind of coloring with what looks like fangs or horns and like some cross marks or hatch marks with a slab serif font. Rare. It always reminds me of a textbook, slab serif font. On land where enslaved people were once tortured and murdered, the state built a penal colony in the wilderness where inmates could be rehabilitated but never escape. Now, decades later, and having only succeeded in trapping men, not changing them for the better, its operations are winding down. But in the prison's waning days, a new horror is unleashed. Every full moon night, the inmates are released. The warden is armed with rifles, and the hunt begins. Every man plans his escape, not knowing if his end will come at the hands of a familiar face or from the unknown dangers beyond the prison walls. So, very interested in this sort of dystopian thing. Probably because of the timely talk of penal colony type incarceration happening in North America and all over the world, really. But yeah, I mean, they could do what they used to do in Northern Ontario. They would have a prison surrounded by literally nothing. So if you wanted to escape, it was like, have at it. Have fun in the snow. But August 25th, we have Pins, Jessica McHugh. Now, I'm not sure of this release date. I think it came out quite a bit earlier, but it's a re-release of Jessica McHugh's Pins. I love the new cover so very much, and this is also a new publisher for me, Madness Heart Press. It has a pole dancer on the cover on black background. She's wielding a severed leg, almost like a weapon. It's really lovely. Pink neon for the word Pins as the title. It's super cool. Tired of school, work, and her dead-end relationship, Birdie wants out. not just to pageants or food service. She takes a job dancing at Pins, a strip club / bowling alley, and soon finds herself questioning everything, including her sexuality. Life is a blur of sex, drugs, and gutter balls until someone starts killing the dancers. Now Birdie and her friends must fight to stay alive using whatever weapons they've got, from stilettos to sheer grit. Pins is a glitter-drenched, blood-soaked tale of self-discovery and survival from 3-time Bram Stoker Award nominee Jessica McHugh. Also from Madness Heart Press that caught my eye when I was looking at their website was the revised Anarchist Kosher Cookbook. Very interested to hear what that's about. And Unsettling Horror in Anti-Bigotry Splatterpunk Environments. And it seemed to be an anthology as opposed to a nonfiction book. So, yeah, Madness Heart Press is new to me. If you've read stuff by them, let me know what it's like. Of course, if you've read Jessica McHugh's stuff, let me know too. That's always nice to hear. August 26th, we have 8114 by Joshua Hull. And I talked about this book previously as I read a pre-release version of it. I liked it quite a bit. It was a little bit rickety in spots, and the protagonist's attitude was a little bit flippant, a little bit too breezy, but it worked. And it's a podcaster. Well, I'll read the description here. The cover, it just is like a red and black monotone photograph of a front door of a house hanging open with black letter text for 8114. Really neat. It's enticing. It's a scene from the book, so it's even better. I love it when there's actually a scene from the book on the cover. After returning to his hometown, Paul, the beleaguered host of a small-time podcast, discovers that a longtime friend has committed suicide in the dilapidated ruins of Paul's childhood home. Desperate to find answers, Paul interviews friends and locals to find closure. He finds himself in a chilling downward spiral of his own memories and the land he grew up on. Has his past caught up with him, or is there something far more sinister at play? I think with this book, it's very worth reading if you're into podcasts and podcast horror like I am, and creator horror. The story of his failed podcast that the main character Paul talks about in this book is brilliant. It's a story of its own. It's a story within a story, and it's so cool. I love this book for the story of his previous failed podcast before he starts making the new podcast. It's a good book. It's a fun read. How Bad Things Can Get by Darcy Coates. I like this. It sounds like it's a diversion for her too. A lot of people think of her as just haunted house stories that she writes, but she's written quite a bit of different stuff, specifically hunted. I really like that. It's a creepy island shot from the sea in purples and greens and a bold orange text for the title in a wide sans serif. It looks like a beachy thriller. So maybe that's where we're going. Ruth, the sole survivor of a notorious cult, joins a luxury influencer event on Prosperity Island, hoping to stay invisible. But the island hides a violent history tied to her past. As party games turn deadly and guests begin to vanish, Ruth must confront buried secrets to survive. What was meant to be 5 days of sun and fun quickly descends into horror. Trapped with hundreds of others, she realizes this paradise might be a carefully staged nightmare. I love a carefully staged nightmare, so that's very interesting to me in that I like Darcy Coates. I like sort of like a camp story. It seems like it'll probably be more like campground than resort. Mostly because I'm pretty sure that if a resort devolves quickly enough, it becomes a campground and worse. Restoration by Ave Barrera. The cover sort of has this like door, much like 8114, that looks like almost like entrance to a cold cellar, more like it. But it's this blood red kind of like red and blue duotone. A blocky slab serif font makes it look even more so like a textbook. If the title of this was like doors in architecture, you would believe it, right? Jasmina has been hired by her maybe boyfriend to restore his family home, a grubby abandoned time capsule where a great artist once lived. As she moves from room to room, scrubbing, scraping, plastering over cracks, the stories inhabiting them awaken, and the lives of the women who came before her begin to overlap with her own. Who is the woman in the photograph? What secrets linger in that last locked room? So it sounds almost like a weird Bluebeard, like a modern day Bluebeard. I don't know. I don't know much about this book, so I'm interested if you've read it to hear about it. Secret Lives of the Dead by Tim Levin. The cover is kind of interesting to describe. It's simple, but it's got like a creepy tree. It's a black creepy tree, and it kind of grows into like a skeletal skeleton that has its arms outstretched. And the bottom sort of spreads out into roots in a way, but I'm not sure it's supposed to be a tree. It's hard for me to describe. Really thick black sans serif text. It works well. It's very simple. I like the skeleton tree motif, kind of, even though I'm not sure if I'm seeing a tree anymore now that I see the skeleton. When Jody, Bibi, and Matt break into a crumbling country house for a dare, they stumble into a dark legacy of curses and hidden motives. One of them isn't just there for thrills. Meanwhile, Lem is determined to end his family's 2 centuries curse by reuniting strange relics. As their paths collide on stormy Crow Island, they must ask, can belief in a curse make it real? Indeed. Indeed. This next book's kind of interesting to me as I've seen quite a bit of buzz. It's called Shoot Me in the Face on a Beautiful Day by Emma E. Murray. The cover is super unique to me in a way. It looks like a bloodstain painting that is painted on flesh almost, if like the tones of red and brown could be believed. Kind of like blood art by Christian Beloga. And I only think that it's a bloodstain painting because I've seen his artwork. It's a woman's face with a strong sans serif font. It works really perfectly. Very beautiful, very visceral because of the color choices. And it's another character named Birdie, much like Pins by Jessica McHugh. Birdie lost everything when her son died. Now on track to rebuild her life, she has to evade her abusive partner, Russ's rage and manipulations, while also worrying about a home-invading serial killer that has descended on her community. Told through multiple point of views with a decomposing murder victim to Birdie's day-to-day battle with domestic violence and grief and horrific crimes of the killer, Shoot Me in the Face on a Beautiful Day will shock, disgust, and break your heart as the dark secrets unfold and Birdie does whatever she feels necessary to protect the ones she loves. Normally, I don't like when a synopsis tells me how I'm going to feel reading the book, but this one passes because it sounds so cool. What the Dead Can Do by Peter Roche. The cover is interesting to me because the cover kind of tells a story. You have a silhouette of a young boy in front of a pond, and in the reflected silhouette, you see the 2 adults flanking him. So it tells the story of those are obviously departed or haunting him or something. It's eerie looking. It's black on red with this queasy kind of green colored Gilles sans serif font. Looks cool. And this is the second book about plane crashes too. When a plane crashes, only one passenger survives. 2-year-old Ethan. Orphaned, he's placed in the care of family friends Matt and Nicole. From the afterlife, Ethan's parents, Tag and Amanda, watch as addiction, money trouble, and media attention begin to unravel the life they hoped that he would have. Amanda's grief twists into an obsession, and she decides that Ethan belongs with them and plans to take him, even if it means ending his life. When she learns to possess the living, only Tag can stop her. To save his son, he may have to risk losing them both forever. Some parents can't let go, even in death. So that's pretty interesting. I don't go in for parental horror. If you do, this might be one for you. Only 2 more books left. August 28th, we have Blood Like Ours by Stuart Neville. I like this cover quite a lot. It's red and beige on black. It's a silhouette of a woman walking past a pine forest with this blood red mountain in the background. It's really, really simple and really lovely. The Kindlepreneur title, like the title on Amazon at least, is much longer than Blood Like Ours. It talks about what kind of book it is in the title, and I find that so off-putting. Rebecca is back from the dead. Confused, starving, and desperate to find her daughter in the wilderness, she meets 2 strange boys who call her Moonflower and promise safety if she follows them. But these brothers aren't lost children. They've been dead for 30 years and have chosen a path of blood and brutality. As Rebecca follows their trail west, her hope turns to horror. Meanwhile, FBI agent Sarah is chasing Rebecca, haunted by her partner's death and searching for answers. What she finds leads back to a dark secret buried deep within the Bureau itself. Not everyone stays dead, and not all come back the same. And in the immortal words of Stephen King, sometimes dead is better, I suppose. And this sounds like that sort of story. So imagine like Pet Sematary, if people came back 30 years later instead of just like pretty instantaneously overnight. That's what that reminds me of. So I'll forgive its really bad Kindlepreneur title, describing what the book's about instead of just leaving it to the title. And the last book on the list, Katabasus by R.F. Kang. The cover is black and yellow, and it's got this frame around a staircase labyrinth, much like a MC Escher print. It's very neat. It has a serif font like Trajan Pro that keeps everything really simple. Katabasus, noun, ancient Greek. The story of a hero's descent into the underworld. Two academic rivals from Cambridge must travel to hell to rescue the soul of their advisor. Getting there was easy, surviving it and each other is another thing entirely. So yeah, if you have been struggling in the harrowed halls of academia, then perhaps Katabasus will be a book for you, or a friend who's in the middle of writing a dissertation. I think that would be a fun one. So yeah, that's a lot of books, 30 some books with 2 bonus books. So probably 35 books that we've talked about here today. And if you want to include like The Stand by Stephen King, that elicited this new collection, or The King in Yellow, right? So if you want to talk about the books that begat the books that are on this list, then there's even more to talk about. If you've read a lot of these, let me know. I know I've been a little bit absent lately, aside from the wood smoke and just the heat. I don't like summer, and I don't do very well in this climate when it's super hot and I can't think straight, and I get busy on top of that, like everybody does in the summer. So I'll have another video coming up soon with a little bit of a catch up to talk about some of the new books that I've bought, the books that I've read lately, the books I'm halfway through reading, because I'm halfway through reading quite a lot of books, and all in August. So yes, if there's anything here that you think I ought to pick up next month, or in September more like it, let me know in the comments below. And of course, if you've read anything here too. Thank you so much for watching, and have an ooky, spooky day.